Hey Leah, welcome.
Hi, everyone. I am on parental duty as well as attending this meeting, just letting you know if I have to excuse myself briefly.
That's quite all right. That's how it goes. Well, we're a little bit of a small group tonight. A number of other folks had conflicts. I think Danielle may join, but also may not. So let's jump right in and hopefully we can have ourselves a fairly efficient meeting and Leah can get back to childcare and so on and so forth. Um, so I think we all know each other. We could skip over introductions. And get right into any updates that we want to share on ongoing projects. So, um, with Danielle not yet in attendance, we could maybe table the Black Literacy Night for now and circle back around to that if she joins. Um, Item B, Wabanaki apology next steps. I'm trying to remember where we left this. Leah, do you remember? I think you took notes last time.
I believe that we were just kind of keeping it on the docket to keep our
On the radar.
awareness of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But as far as we know, we at the time we hadn't heard back from anybody about the apology or how whether or not they wanted to meet with anyone from the town council, but that was as far as we had gotten.
Great. Thanks for that refresher. Um, yeah, by way of update, I haven't heard that that's changed. That's still the status to my knowledge. Um, all right. Anything else we want to say on that subject, or shall we move on to the next?
I'll be interested to see if there's um, any kind of like meeting slash response, like kind of what that will be. I'm interested also in seeing what I feel like I've been following the manager search as well because I know that's the next item very interestedly. So,
Um, so
or-
I could share
yeah.
a couple updates on the manager search process, one of which is the council did select an advisory committee to be part of that. I also passed on this group's recommendations that we discussed last time for um, opportunities and ways to be doing kind of blind screening and being thoughtful about the potential for bias in the process. And um, I believe that now we're going to be relying on my faulty memory to like perfectly recall what the update was. But I'm pretty sure that um, the suggestion that I think Leah had where we listen first and then watch the recordings as a two layers of screening is in fact the process that we're planning to use. And um, the way our search recruiter does um, rubrics suggests doing that. Each person actually kind of creates their own rubric rather than having a preset rubric um, with quantitative measures. So that was a little bit different. Um, but I think it was really helpful for council to get feedback from this group because it informed a really good conversation that the search chairs were able to have with our search recruiter on how best to structure this. So I think there are candidates in the candidate pool. I don't know if I'm at liberty to say anything more about it than that, but process is ongoing. I guess is yeah. Do you have any specific questions or things that you want to know more about, or is that sufficient update? I see Leah's dropped off.
I am
Oh,
here. I turned my camera off for the moment. I do have a question in terms of timeline. Do you know anything in terms of like when the process will wrap up in reviewing the applicants and when an ultimate decision might be made?
yeah, I think that I do. Let me whip out my trusty paper planner and I can tell you what is on that, which is probably accurate. So starting next week, the advisory committee and council would be looking at some initial round of candidates, assuming that we're satisfied with the sort of size and quality of the candidate pool by then. We would start an initial screening of candidates next week. Then 3 weeks later, the week of April 8th would be an opportunity for the sort of next round of candidates to be screened. So that would be like a semi-finalist round, I believe. And then the week of April 22nd and the week of April 29th, we also have meetings that are related to the search process. I guess I don't have written down exactly what those meetings are, but I believe that candidate interviews might tentatively be that last weekend of May, first weekend of April. I guess I'd want to double check this. My own paper planner notes are scantier than I might have hoped they would be. But the timeline for this is publicly available. And if you wanted to double check my hazy recollection, you could talk to Sarah Marks or Leo Kenny, who are the co-chairs of the search process. They would have that at their fingertips in a way that I don't. Yep.
I appreciate that. I can certainly double check. I was just kind of wondering rough estimate. I do have a follow-up question in terms of a comment that you had made about the pool and making sure that the search committee is comfortable with I'm not sure if you are like evaluating, do we have a diverse enough pool of candidates to start reviewing applicants? Has that been talked about, or is
I'm not sure what the methodology for that is. I think that that's an ongoing conversation that the search committee chairs are having with the search recruiter. And so I don't know exactly what that would be, although I would welcome your thoughts about what sort of typical or best practice based on your experience with these kinds of things.
I think my advice would be drawing specifically from higher education, and I'm not sure if this advice would be applicable in this case, because what happens is when there's a faculty search process going on, if there aren't demographically, if there's not a diverse enough pool, the HR reviews the candidates and they actually go back and say, you have to extend the search, you have to open it up for a longer period of time. Because, for example, like we only got white folks who are applicants or whatever their criteria are. But that's based on university policy. So I just don't know if the town has any kind of policy. It might make sense to even just have a conversation about if that's something they want to initiate.
Yeah, it's a good question, Leah. Thanks for that. And I really appreciate your sort of perspective and expertise coming in from a different angle. I will write that down and run it by the search committee chairs as like an additional thought that at least, in other organizations, there are some models for how to think about that.
Sounds good. Happy to help.
I don't know if Cornell or Shelley would have any kind of policy that might be in place already. So it might be
it's a good
to check with them.
That's a great thought. All right, so I'm going to check with Cornell or Shelley about kind of hiring processes and any candidate pool size or DEI considerations that are part of that process already from the town's perspective, as well as mentioning that the university has some policies and procedures about this that that Leah's familiar with and might be interesting to look at as models. Great.
I also have a question.
Great, go for it.
So one of the things that I remember participating in was sort of the town's survey in like what are people looking for in the town manager. And I'm wondering what came out of that. Like how were those
Yeah.
results looked at? What was kind of the outcome? How is that being applied to the search? Is that part of like, could that be part, but like potentially of like Leah's suggestion of the rubric? Like, is that what are we like? What was the outcome? Because I feel like it's also important for kind of the people of Orono to know that like, hey, you didn't just like participate in this and then it just like was sort of background considered.
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. That's really thoughtful. And this one, I actually was the person most directly involved and can speak to it more. Yeah, I did some analysis of the survey data and made a one-pager and also like a little bit of a longer 6-pager report. But the one-pager is accessible on the town website, I believe, and I can find a copy and send that around if you're curious. But there were some key themes that that were sort of not shocking or surprising, but also were kind of a nice summary of what folks who participated in that survey were looking for. I actually have a copy of it here just by happenstance. We had 303 total survey responses, which I think is pretty decent. Of these, 90% were Orono residents, 9% were town staff, 11% were owners of Orono businesses, and 6% wrote an other label to describe their town involvement. Some of the key findings were that we were looking for a new town manager who had a style that was sort of collaborative, adaptable, and ethical were the sort of top 3 leadership styles of a number of styles that participants were asked to rank. Some of the core competencies that survey respondents thought were really important included integrity, functional operational expertise and planning, empowering staff, initiative, risk-taking vision, creativity and innovation, budgeting, and strategic planning. And then some of the priority issues identified by folks in town looking toward the future included infrastructure, community, housing affordability, taxes, and climate change. So, you know, nothing that's necessarily shocking, but really helpful feedback. And the way that this has been, again, summarized in a one-pager, which folks can check out if they're curious. And was also part of the community conversation we had when the search recruiter was in town. We sort of looked at that as an opportunity to expand and dig deeper, but heard some really similar themes from that event too, which was another important data gathering opportunity. And the way that this is being used in the search process, at least in part, is that I know the town council has familiarized ourselves with it, and it's been part of the way that we've been thinking about what questions we want to ask candidates and how we can be kind of evaluating them to ensure that some of the key themes and attributes that are suggested by these data are things that we're looking for when we're looking at folks. So, and I don't think I can say more than that because some of the conversations have happened in executive session and like the questions are confidential, but I think it's fair to give that level of synopsis.
Yeah, I was more just looking for kind of a general overview like you gave. I'm just
Yeah.
wondering, is there any like formal envelopment of these kind of things other than like the town council's considerations, or is this also sort of wrapped into like the kind of closer like recruiter work? And if you don't know, of course, that's okay.
Yeah, I think that the most that makes sense to say, given that the like questions are that we're asking candidates and exactly how we're evaluating them is sort of proprietary and confidential, is to say
Naturally.
this was an integral part of how we've been thinking about prioritizing those dimensions. Yeah, really appreciate the question. Thanks so much. Anything else on manager search process? There is going to be, and I'll make sure that I find this date and share it. There will be an opportunity for when we get to the finalist stage of having, you know, a 3 or so finalist candidates come to the town to visit for an in-person interview. There will be an opportunity for a public meet and greet for those finalist candidates. And so I'll make sure that this group gets that information and can consider that and spread the word when
Yeah,
that time
I
comes.
I'd totally be interested in seeing them sort of, there we go. Seeing them sort of like I guess not be like forced to or anything like that, but having them attend possibly one of our meetings to kind of see what we do, because I assume they'll probably be well acquainted with the town council, but I think I would be interested in like having them know us as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that once once there is a new town manager chosen, that makes total, that's like 100% for sure. In the interview stage, um, I think the plan and configuration of the interview probably wouldn't allow that to happen for all interview candidates, but there would be opportunity for like us to show up there and be part of the process that way. Hi, Danny, welcome. Thank you for joining, even though I know it's late where you are.
That's okay, no worries. I'm here, happy to be here.
Awesome. We've just been looking at updates on ongoing projects, and we had kind of skipped over the Black Literacy Night concept. And so maybe we could circle back around to that now that you've joined. If there's, I know you've, been on the go and maybe have not had time to expand this concept further, but maybe you have. So I guess I'd welcome your updates in as small or as large as it is on the Black Literacy Night.
Yeah, of course. So I am very much still interested in doing it. I actually, as I told you all the last time, I was having some difficulty as Jesse was preparing to pass. So now that that has passed, I think I have enough time to really put my energy into doing this, because I really feel that in our community, we are missing the Black voice. And so I'm planning to really dive into that probably this week and emerge from there. It is, like I said, things were kind of hectic, but it's kind of leveled out now. So I will have a better update for you when we meet, or I can just email the group.
Yeah. And do feel free, I guess, to keep us in touch over email if there's things that we can do to support as well. Because I know, I'll speak for myself. I think this is a really wonderful idea that I'd love to see come to fruition. And I know that there's other members of the committee who also are pretty excited about it.
Yeah, I will email us before the end of the week what my next steps are and give an update.
Awesome. All right. Up next on our agenda is, I think we'd mentioned as an idea last meeting, opportunity to review the former ad hoc DEIB committee recommendations and reports and come up with priorities of what we wanted to prioritize. And I guess I'll take responsibility for, I'm the one who sent the reminder email for this meeting and did not include that report or a specific reminder for us to do that. I also can't remember if we had decided we wanted to do that this meeting or if we just said that we wanted to do it but hadn't chosen to do it this meeting. Can someone remind me?
I think the plan was to, if we had time to review it during this meeting, but we also, I think we're wanting the report more in advance. So I'm concerned that people didn't have enough because I actually just went on the town website and I downloaded it and it's, you know, over 40 pages long. So I briefly reviewed it. So I'm not sure if we want to table it and dedicate like more time with like prior to the next meeting to review it, or we can spend some time right now in the meeting reviewing it. My concern is just people haven't had a chance to look at it.
Yeah, I personally read it in detail, but some time ago. And so my life's been a bit hectic and have not had a chance to review it. And I'm happy to talk about it tonight if other folks have gotten a chance to review and are excited to dig into it, and would also be happy to table. Where are other folks on this? Do we want to do it this time, or do we want to like make it a priority next time? And I can commit to sending out a follow-up right after this meeting that's like, here's the report and the plan for what we're doing with it.
I think personally, I would like to be able to kind of more intensely engage with this. And as I've only really been able to skim the report, I think I'd like to be able to kind of go through it and kind of take notes on the things that I want to talk about, because I feel like I want to at least be able to sort of organize my thoughts a little bit better. And so I think that like giving me some time would be really great.
All right, so tabling for next time. Does everyone feel comfortable with that? And I know that Malcolm served on this ad hoc committee, and when we spoke last meeting was like a little bit bummed to not be part of the conversation about revisiting that and prioritizing goals. And so it might be nice to be able to, if he's able to join by next time, that could be really lovely to have him in the loop. All right.
Yeah, considering he was a very integral part of also delivering the kind of initial findings and things like that when we started the more official committee, I definitely think that if there's room for his participation, I feel like that would be really valuable input.
Right. All right, but next time with bells on, we're going to dig into this old report and we're going to be prepared to talk about it. I'm not forgetting. And again, my apologies. I've been a little, you know, it's been one of those times. So, is there anything else that we want to say or plan for, strategizing how we want to dig into that? I think just as simple as review in detail and come prepared to think about what we would suggest to the town council by way of priorities that might make sense to carry into the future. Yeah, and I know that when perhaps Lori could sort of speak to this aspect, but when we'd done some review of this initially after this group formed, and I think we were speaking with Nancy and maybe some other staff people, it was clear that there are some of the recommendations that have already sort of come to fruition and been integrated into what the town is doing. And so, Lori, if you had capacity to be part of that review and could speak to what town staff is already doing, I think that would be really helpful to know.
Absolutely. Happy to do that.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Sure.
And all right, I think we're at the part of our agenda where it's public comment. Is there any public comment? There's nobody here physically present tonight. Anyone online?
No hands raised online.
Great, thank you so much. And I believe Lori shared with me that the town staff DEIB committee hasn't met recently, so there's no staff report. Is that correct?
No staff report. Yeah, we haven't. With all the transition going on, we really haven't had the opportunity to meet. So
yeah,
hopefully
doesn't surprise me. Doesn't surprise me. All right, up next, the ownership of our logbook and how to pass on kind of access to that. I think maybe, Michael, are you the best person to speak to this?
Yeah, so essentially, currently it's housed in a program called Notion, in which I pay a fee every month in order to have certain accesses to it. Well, certain features, I should say. And both within my financial scope and kind of my generalized scope of information, it's not super realistic for me to be the owner of this at the moment.
Yeah.
I think that like if I'm obviously it's not like a terribly expensive thing, but it's also like I'm really poor.
Mm-hmm.
So um it adds up. But
yeah.
basically if we have kind of um like if there's an email that can be used to make a Notion account that the town would have control over, that like they can make their own Notion account and then that can be managed by the town, I can do an export of my current kind of project and be able to import it into that. Um, so I'm not really sure like what the kind of next steps on that would be, because I obviously can do so. I'm not really sure who to start with. I forget off the top of my head who the contact was, but I'm basically it would be something that would have to be managed by the town, and then obviously I can then give the information of how it works and everything like that, as well as a copy of the current project, and then I can and then the document as it exists would be able to be republished every time that it's updated onto the actual town website, because it would be an actual like town piece of intellectual property. I'm not sure what that would be referred to as.
I think that would have to be a decision. I'm not sure whose office that comes from, maybe the town managers, if that's a software that the town wants to invest in. I mean, certainly.
Yeah, because
a
the
lot
software itself is free. It's just the sort of business plan of it that allows you to do certain things.
Well, and oftentimes an individual's cost is much less than an organization.
That's true.
So I'm not sure if it would be valuable to other departments is the thing. We're already signed on to quite a bit of, I guess I shouldn't speak for town manager, but I think that that's perhaps a town manager decision if that's an investment they want to make.
Yeah, I just unfortunately I don't have any other way to translate that into another program. That's one of the big things is I don't unfortunately I don't have the time or really the capacity to translate it all out into something else. And so unfortunately it does need to transfer hands, but I'm not sure how we would do that as a result.
Yeah. Oh, thanks for bringing that up. I'm sure that all will be well, but appreciate Lori's suggestion that going to the town manager with this question is probably the right next step. And so, Michael, is that something that would you'd like me to kind of flag and run by him, or would you like to reach out to him? What would you? We have an interim town manager at the moment, but he'd be able to help address this question for now, I think.
Yeah, if you could sort of just reach out initially, that would be great, because I'm just not sure what sort of um and like I can provide really any information that's needed to sort
Cool.
of go over like the the pages and stuff that dictate like the pricing and stuff for organizations, because that is available.
All right. Does anyone else have thoughts, reflections, feedback on this? I think I'm hearing that the next step that makes sense is for me to reach out to our interim town manager and find out what software the town currently has access to, and if it would make sense for the town to sort of invest in a new piece of software in the event that we don't currently have access to this. So I can make that connect. All right. We're flying through. I think the next thing that is our usual process and procedure to do is to make an agenda this meeting for what we're going to do next meeting, which we've already started to do by flagging that making sure there's time for an extended conversation about the former ad hoc DEIB recommendations and reports and our prioritization of them. It could really be a centerpiece of next meeting. Yes? Are there other items that we want to include?
I'd like to have the Black History Literacy Night included. And like
Great.
I said, I'll give more detail later this week.
Sounds good. Lori, would you like the sort of staff report as a potential standing item to be on there in case there's anything?
Yeah,
Great.
that would be fine.
Anything else looking ahead that we know we want to get into?
I'm sure by next meeting there'll be updates slash additional information for the town manager process. So that'll probably be a good way to update ourselves, keep up to date on that, and also provide anyone looking at our documentations with updates. Additionally, if there happens to be any logbook updates, that can be placed on there as well.
Yeah, that makes sense actually. All right. So for next meeting, little report back on what I find about logbook software, opportunity for next steps on the Black History Month project, updates on the town manager search process, staff report, and then as sort of a focal item for the meeting, really digesting and prioritizing findings from the previous ad hoc DEI committee report. Yes? Woo! All right. We did everything that was on our agenda. Is there anything else we want to touch base about while we have each other, or shall we call it a night a little bit early today?
I personally do not have anything else.
Great.
So I'm all right with adjourning early if everybody else is solid.
I'm ready.
I'm good with that.
Be nice.
I'm deeply appreciative to you all for making it here amidst your childcare and your traveling and I know sort of full and rich lives. So thank you for your time and your dedication, and we'll see you all soon.
Thank you
Have a
so
good
much.
night. Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everyone.